Hey guys, this is Adam Schulhof. I am CEO and co-founder of Grin. Join the podcast today where we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, including how Grin is going to help bring a ton of value to your practice and to your patients, and you're all going to have a good time while we do so.
orthomarketing.com, 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.
Hello, everybody in podcast land. This is Dean Steinman from Ortho Marketing, and we are back with another podcast for you. It is now the holiday season, 2021. It's been a crazy year, and things are changing. And speaking of changing, I have a very awesome special guest with us today. I have Adam Schulhof, who is the CEO and developer of this incredible technology called Grin. And we're here to talk a little bit how technology is changing the world, changing your practice, making you more efficient and effective. And at the end of this podcast, guys, you're going to be hooked, okay? Because if you don't jump on to this technology bandwagon and get things going, you're going to be left behind. So I'm going to explain to you how to make a difference in your practice. So Adam Schulhof, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Do I have to do I'm doing well?
Right back at you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's kind of jump into it. So it's right now, holiday season 2021, a lot of craziness going around in the technology world, especially in the ortho space, about a lot of people raising a lot of money and a lot of stuff going on in there, and things are really changing out there. So let's talk a little bit about, tell us your story, your background. You're an orthodontist, an entrepreneur. Tell us, who is Adam Schulhof, and then talk about, Grin and how that came to be.
Ooh, who is Adam Schulhof? Oh my goodness, I don't know if we have enough time for that. Now, so Adam Schulhof is let's see, Adam Schulhof, that's a good one. He is a Jewish guy from New York. And when I say from New York, that just means, I tell it like it is, right? That's one thing. New Yorkers, love him or hate him, we tell it exactly like it is. So you know what you're getting, right?
Forget about it.
Exactly. What you see is what you get. But I have worked for many, many years to try to get over my Staten Island accent. So it tends to come out when I am slightly inebriated or, just a little bit excited. So I have to apologize ahead of time for that. But let's see. So who am I? How did this all come to be? As most of the listeners know, I am an orthodontist. I've been in the field for 20 years. Oh my goodness. It doesn't feel like 20 years, but it has been. And I have tended to always lean towards innovation, but I guess innovation towards the consumer. What I mean by that is most people, they hear Adam Schulhof and they say to me, hey, you're the lingual guy, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not the lingual guy. I'm just an orthodontist. I happen to, at one point in my career, lecture a lot about lingual, but the reason for that was really because I was always of a mindset that, most orthodontists that are listening to this podcast are phenomenal orthodontists. But at the end of the day, we're providing something for our patients. And our patients on the other side of things, have certain wants and needs. And those that have heard me lecture, I always, from the beginning of time that I ever got up on a stage to talk to orthodontists about, what they should do in their own practices, or at least what I was doing in my own practice that made a difference. It was always about putting the patient first, not putting our own orthodontic, I call it biases, on our patient, and giving patients what they're looking for. And, along with that goes understanding what patients are looking for. So early on, it was aesthetics, right? So let's kind of take a time machine back to, I graduated from my program. I went, again, true New Yorker. I went to Columbia, and I graduated back in 2003. So think about what the market looked like at that point. Aligners had just hit the market, right? And aligners had hit the market, but at the same time, we were kind of, as a New Yorker would say, putzing around with aligners, and they just weren't getting our patients where we as orthodontists wanted our patients to be, right? And whether we blame it on the companies, whether we blame it on plastic, honestly, it was about us orthodontists not understanding how to move teeth well with plastic. And so very quickly, most orthodontists were like, these aligners are not for us. They're a GP tool, or, not going to happen, right?
Right.
And obviously, Big Blue turned that whole narrative around by investing a ton of money into the market to actually market to the consumer and say, hey, this is what you could have. You could potentially have an orthodontic journey that is aesthetic, right? And so
Right.
early on, I was looking at consumers. They're looking for aesthetic, right? They're looking for ways to go through this journey that we can give them, but they're looking to do it in a much more pleasing way. And at the time, it wasn't really, again, not to besmirch aligners, but we didn't understand how to work with aligners. I'll put it that way. And so I was looking to, are there any other tools out there that I can give the patient the best of both worlds? I can give them aesthetics, but at the same time, I can give them a result that I was proud of, right? And so that's why I kind of led myself towards lingual orthodontics, started doing a lot of it. I had a practice in New York City, so you can only imagine New York City, very adult-centric from an orthodontic perspective. Lingual ortho worked really, really, really well with that. And so when you ask about Adam Schulhof, primarily, I'm very passionate about orthodontics, but specifically, it doesn't, some people say, yeah, lingual orthodontics. No, it's really orthodontics, but giving consumers what they're really looking for, understanding what they're looking for, giving them what they're looking for, and at the same time making sure that that care is responsible care with a good result. And so that kind of, in a nutshell, is how I always saw my career.
Interesting. So what do you think people want now? You say give them what they want. So now let's fast forward from 2003 to now 2021. What are the three things people want now?
Okay.
Let's just look that.
Great question. So that's part of the story, right? So initially, when the ability to treat a patient with an aesthetic oriented appliance system, right, came to be, it was they wanted aligners, they wanted invisible or behind the teeth orthodontics, etc. What's happened over time, though, is of course there are other outside influences that have hit the market around 2015, right? The direct to consumer mode. And interestingly enough, practice in New York City, the first smile or scan shop, they called it, that the direct-to-consumer companies opened up was in New York City, in Soho. And so I started seeing a lot of these patients about, circa 2015, 2016, coming to my practice, having gone through some sort of direct-to-consumer type aligner system. And now, of course, their bites are off, teeth are loose, all of the problems, right?
Of course.
And so exactly your question is what I started saying. How is it that most rational people, in my mind, again, my own orthodontic bias,
Right.
how is it most of us would say, I would never attempt any kind of healthcare by circumventing the doctor and trying to do something on my own, right? God forbid I have an emergency. Instead of going to the emergency room, I look something up on YouTube and take some thread and try to stitch it together. Most people are not going to do that, right? And of course, I know others say, well, tooth movement isn't brain surgery. True, but look at all of the patients now that are unfortunately having serious harm done to their bites or smiles or teeth because of this kind of stuff. So my rational mind said, what the heck, right? But then I really started talking to these patients and trying to exactly that, understand what is it that you were looking for when your mind switched that on-off switch saying, yeah, I'm going to try this. No doctor involved, whatever. I'll just do this on my own from home, right? And every single one of those patients answered to me, I don't have the time to come in to see an orthodontist every month, right? And there was one particular patient, I always tell this story because this was a physician. It was an ER physician in the city. And he said to me, I'll be honest with you, I have 3 day straight shifts, then I'm off for 24 hours, then I'm back on again. I do not have the time to take during those 24 hours once a week that I'm off and come in to see you once a month, just like I did when I was a kid. And so very quickly, I started really wrapping my mind around, we as orthodontists are doing a great job straightening teeth. Orthodontics as a specialty is doing a phenomenal job in bringing new innovative technologies to the specialty, such as, custom brackets and wires, custom lingual, all of these cool things that we use on our patients. But the one thing that we have not been good about is actually infusing technology into the patient journey and actually changing the way the patient is interacting with us, right? And so, Jonathan talks about plastic employee, right? A lot of people now talk about plastic employee, but the reality is that unless you create the efficiencies in your practice to actually allow for reduced chair time because the technology allows you to do so, you're not recognizing those efficiencies. And so this is actually, your question led me in my pursuit to understand what these patients, these consumers were looking for, and start wrapping my mind around how can we do this better? How can we start communicating with our patients and giving the patients and giving doctors tools whereby we can achieve a lot of what we generally do in person, but actually do it remotely. And not by taking away or reducing the quality of care, but actually heightening that quality of care and having even more responsible oversight than we did before, when the patient had to run around in traffic, look for parking, come to our practice, and put their butts in our chairs.
Right. So now your mind is spinning and you're saying, wow, okay, there's a big hole here that needs to be filled. So have you always been an entrepreneur? Is this something that's always been in your fiber? Because some people make a very, very nice living being orthodontists. And now the fact that you're willing to, to risk it and say, okay, I'm going to start, a technology company versus, being what you trained. How did that even start? So obviously, orthodontists do very well, a very thriving practice in New York City. But all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to be a game changer here. So, what made that light turn on?
Yeah, there's a lot of parts to that question, but the first thing I will say, and in speaking to some of my good friends who are orthodontic CEOs, sometimes we talk amongst ourselves about how the specialty and doctors don't realize we're actually giving up a very good living as an orthodontist. And it's not for the money, certainly, because as an entrepreneur, as a startup, we are making far less than we would actually working in our practice, right? But reality is that the reason that I'm here and where I am is because ultimately I feel like I can have the biggest effect on the specialty of orthodontics. I was, and many have heard me, if you heard me lecture anywhere from 2016 through now, I had even a part of my lecture that we call Take Back the Specialty, because I was of the mindset that if we did nothing to move the specialty forward from a perspective of innovation that actually benefited the patient and understanding what the patient is looking for, I was worried that orthodontics over the next 10, 20 years would go the way of prosthodontics, right? And I have some great friends who are pros, and unfortunately, there is no longer a specialty of pros. Patients have no clue when a doctor who spent an additional X years in residency specifically concentrating on prosthodontics, patients have no clue when a doctor gives that over to them. Or if they go to a doctor's website, right? They're going to find, like in New York City, you're going to find the guy that has hired the highest PR firm that says, I'm the dentist to the stars, rather than somebody that actually spent years and years and years training specifically for full mouth rehab, veneer work, crown work, et cetera, right? And so pros, unfortunately, has gone in that direction. And a lot of it is because of that marketing and consumer perception. And I was so worried that this is exactly what's happening to orthodontics. We were letting the direct-to-consumer companies own the narrative, and that was really, really dangerous. And so, yes, I really did take myself out of my comfort zone. I was always of a mindset to innovate, but maybe not as much of an implementer, right? And thankfully, I was lecturing in Israel at one point talking about this. And that's where I met my co-founders, who approached me after my lecture and said, Adam, what is it that you're understanding that this room of orthodontists have no clue, and it's just going to blindside them in about 5 years from now? And so that's where I met my co-founders. They were actually from the startup world. They were thinking about doing something in digital health. They had some history in digital health and diabetes care. And they said, Adam, talk to us around where you see this going, how you think we can disrupt what's happening there now. But the way I kind of talked to them, I said, it's not about the buzzword that startups love using, disruption, right? To me, the disruption right now is this noise, this bad noise from the direct to consumer. We need to disrupt the disruption and bring patients back to orthodontists, but give them the tools so that they can achieve what they're looking for in the journey they're looking for.
roundabout way. It's very interesting to disrupt the disruptors. And
Exactly.
right now you have to do that. You can't make Elon Musk did not get where he is without being a disruptor. Bill Gates did not get where he is without being a disruptor. The only way that somebody dominates and gets to the level where they are is to be a disruptor.
Yeah.
So let's talk now a little bit about Grin and how it is. How is it a disruptor? How is that technology changing the industry? Because let's go back to pre 2020. Okay, nobody even thought of virtual consultations, virtual orthodontics on demand. That was so foreign to so many, but to everybody in the industry. But now, if you don't offer virtual consultations or virtual follow-ups or remote monitoring, you're left behind. You're being,
Yeah.
so that you have to adapt technology and you have to embrace it. So let's talk a little bit about Grim. Let's talk about the technology and actually what does it do?
Okay, great. So you are right, and the reality is that COVID has now changed things tremendously. But we've been building this from 2018, and again, building it because I already had my ear on what consumers are looking for, what future patients are looking for, and my goal always was not to even worry about fighting amongst what many these days call the red ocean, but really looking to the blue ocean. How do we tap into patients that are not necessarily looking to do things the traditional way? And so Grin is, I like to just dumb it down to Grin is a communication platform. Grin is a communication platform that allows our patients what they're looking for, that allows our patients to interact with our practices and with their own orthodontic treatment the way they now interact with every other aspect of their life. Right? We're going to get off of this podcast and I'm going to get onto Grubhub and I'm going to order dinner potentially, right? Because in the meantime, the kitchen is off limits, I was told, because Michelle is marinating the turkey. So she's like, you're Grubhubbing tonight because I'm not marinating the turkey and cooking. So the reality is everything that we do is through this mobile device. And now obviously COVID has shifted things even farther and faster in that direction, but that's what I was always looking at. I was like, okay, we're losing patients to DTC. I'm hearing that it's about convenience. More than cost even, it's about convenience. We need to be able to make the journey a lot more convenient for them. How many times have we talked about ortho versus another specialist? So let's say OS, right? OS has one visit and pulls a bunch of wisdom teeth and can technically make as much as an orthodontist does over 24 months of treatment, right? How do we try to start stacking the odds in our favor? We've just been going along for years and years and years, and orthodontist, okay, you see the patient every 4 weeks, and you're going to do this, you're going to change, the colors, and you're going to, and continue. We have so many amazing new tools that clinically create efficiencies. Why are we bringing these patients in every 4 weeks, 8 weeks even? Why are we bringing them in just to take a look and tell them, great job, now you can go home? And then we're excited that we got the patient in and out of the chair in 5 minutes. And mom is fuming because she just spent 40 minutes in traffic. She was circling your office for 20 minutes looking for parking, all for a 5-minute appointment. So you're like proud. You're like, hey, here you go, mom. All right, Tommy's done in 5 minutes. We're amazing. And mom's like, what the hell? Why did I come for 5 minutes, right? And so Grin ultimately is the way that I saw how we can actually give patients what they're looking for, but at the same time, I am absolutely holding all of us to the highest standard of care and making sure that we have full insight into what's happening, and in reality, even more insight. So more responsible care to some extent, but being able to do it in a convenient manner. And so it's created off of a platform, we call it, right? So on the patient side, there is an app the patient has on their mobile device. On the doctor side, there is a web app that we have on our laptops. You can also access it. It's mobily enhanced, so you can access it on your phone. And the patient has a very, very simple piece of hardware that we call the Grin Scope. And the goal with the Grin Scope was always from the beginning, I said to the team, I need something that my 8-year-old could pick up off a counter and be able to use within 30 seconds without me having to teach them how to use it. right? Anytime we are going to create anything for the consumer at home, it's got to be something that is easy. Ease of use was absolutely key. That was number one. Number two, trying to keep costs down, because when we start considering this amazing new way of communicating with our patients, it's a change for an orthodontic practice, right? And as an orthodontic practice is attempting any kind of change, what I've learned in my 20 years of practice is if it's one off, if I have 5 chairs and I have one patient on monitoring, the next one not, the third one yes, the fifth one yes, the fourth one not, then that's not efficient, right? As a practice, you have to understand that culturally and systemically, we switch over to our practice is innovative enough that we now offer a hybrid solution to appointments. There are going to be in-touch appointments. There are going to be virtual appointments. Every patient in our practice is now going to have an amazing new way to communicate with the practice through their mobile device at any given time, whether it's for an emergency, whether it's to understand how they wear their elastics because they forgot, whatever. And so I also needed it to be a low cost so that I am not thinking for every single patient, should I put this one on monitoring? Should I not put this one on monitoring? Is it worth it to put this one, right? It's got to be something that is so easy, so accessible, and so negligible from a price point that we're just switching our entire practice. Every patient now has the ability to communicate with the practice in this new way. Every patient has a scope at home so that I can see through their mobile device into their mouth the way I need to see. It's got to be as if the patient is in the chair. And in fact, what we're hearing now from doctors right and left is, when a patient sends us a scan, I can actually look at their teeth better than when I'm in my clinic, because I'm in my clinic. I've got 5+ chairs running. Everybody's yelling for me to run over to them. Consultation room's yelling that they need the doctor, right? And I take a quick look and I'm like, okay, do this. I'm walking away from the chair and then I'm like, wait a minute. Did I see their molar relationship? Darn it. I don't know. Do I need to put them in elastics? Oh, I got to go to the next patient, right? And what happens now? Now you're wasting an appointment to some extent. It happens all the time. It happened to me as well. Versus now, I've got it on my screen. I can fast forward it. I can pause it. I'm getting video of the patient's bite, right? I'm getting screenshots, not screenshots. We actually have AI that'll pull out the 5 poses that orthodontists want to look at. So you can look at the stills, you could look at the actual video. So we're seeing things in a better way with better lighting blown up on our screen versus even in the chair, right? And so really, I keep on coming back to the communication. It's really this connection that we're now having with our patients to the extent that we never had before. I can say so many stories, but to me, one of the more impactful one was when I actually had a patient in the chair who was the son of an Invisalign patient in my practice, right? And so mom was on the, in the mom area, the on-deck chair right behind the clinical chairs, and she was in aligners. And the child was in the chair just having bonded. And we gave the child Grin. We showed him how to use it. And on the big screen that we have chair side, we have the doctor's portal for Grin. So the child is taking the scan and finishes taking the scan all on his own. And then boom, it pops up on the screen. And you can see the kid's eyes go wide, mom's eyes go wide. And mom says, wait a minute, you didn't have this for me. And we're like, we're going to get you on it too. You started before we had Grin. That's cool, And the coolest part was then one of my assistants goes to the doctor's portal and types in amazing job with your first scan. And boom, it pops up on the kid's phone. And the kid's looking at this. He's looking at the screen. Mom is looking at this, looking at the screen. They're like, this is so cool. And here's what mom told me that I didn't even think of before. Mom said to me, you give me aligners and you tell me you're going to switch on your own every week. And this was pre-Grin. You're going to switch on your own every week. And then you're going to come back in 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is. And she said to me, you don't know the anxiety I felt every time I had to switch a tray on my own, because I know you said it's going to be okay, but I didn't know if I was ready. Now with this, you're going to tell me if I'm ready. And I said, exactly. So it's not even just about, obviously we're going to make it much more convenient for them. They're not going to have to come in as often. And I've completely transformed my practice, and we can talk about it, how, really the impact of that. But I didn't even think about the psychological impact for some of these patients, that now they're leaving the practice and they're feeling this connection. They're not as nervous about making their aligner switches on their own. They're not as nervous about walking out of the practice for the first time with a full mouth of braces that they've never experienced before either. So it goes so far about, we talk about ROI and we talk about efficiencies and we talk about chair time, but from a patient perspective, sometimes to kind of bring it all the way back to the emotional part of this, which that's what builds our practices, right? That's the real winner here that I found.
So does Grin work across the board with aligners as well as braces, or is it
Absolutely.
strictly one or the other?
Absolutely. We use it for every single patient in the practice, and not even patients in treatment, but patients out of treatment as well. So we've got remote consultations. So some patients find our website, actually order click on virtual consult. We ship them a scope. They take their scan, and I actually do their consult virtually before they even come in. We've got patients that are on observation. So we're waiting for teeth to grow. And why have them come back every 6 months? I have them take a Grin scan every 3 months, and I just tell them if their teeth are in and ready for their next stage yet, right? Then we've got obviously in treatment, brackets, wires, aligners, expanders. We have a pediatric size scope we call the mini. So we've got that as well, because we have so many practices that have asked us about utilizing this for expansion patients. Then throughout treatment, and then in retention. I don't see a retention visit in my practice anymore. It's all virtual. And what's been amazing is every single virtual touch point is all saved to the cloud. I've got the video of what their teeth look like. I've got the communication saved of exactly what was said to this patient. So we no longer have patients coming back a year later and saying, "Oh, at one point my retainer didn't fit. It was never good. That's why my teeth shifted. That's why I didn't wear it." It's all in Grin. Look, you took this video at this and this date and it was perfect. You were supposed to take the next video 3 months later and you stopped. That's on you. But here's where we prove your teeth were perfect, your retainers fit, right? All of those pieces to it. So really, this is across the entire practice, no matter what kind of appliance, no matter what kind of treatment, we've been utilizing it.
So a lot of technology is available now to practice owners, and a lot of people are freaking out. They're afraid to even take a step in or whatever it is, or the mind has been in because they get hit by this or this or this. So what advice would you give to somebody who realize they do have to introduce technologies to their practice, but don't know even where to begin to sift through the noise? So and they're hesitant to jump in. What would you suggest they do as far as, because in my eyes, you can't even go to the shallow end anymore, and you have to go right into the deep end. Otherwise, you're going to left behind across the board in any business these days. But you have to understand that baby steps don't work much anymore, because by the time you take your second step, it's already too late.
Right.
In certain things. So,
I
what advice
never,
would you give somebody?
right. I never like to come from a place of fear. Ooh, you're going to be left behind. But I will say this: to me, it comes back to the way I always thought about orthodontics and our kind of industry. Whenever you're evaluating any new technology, the number one thing is to think about how it's going to impact your patient, right? So there's so many cool things we can do in our practice that'll make us look cool, but is it going to add value to the patient is the question. Does this add value directly to my patient? And that's when I know I have a winner, right? So when I created Grin, a lot of this was around, yes, this is going to reduce my chair time. So I'm reducing my overhead. I'm making more money, all good things, but how is it going to impact my patient? And across the board, our patient feedback is through the roof. I have doctors that told me their patients don't use mobile devices. BS, their patients do, and now their patients love it. I have doctors that told me, my patients are a different sort. They only want to see me. They want to come in all this time. Now they're on Grin and they're like, "Oh my God, you were so right. These patients have told me, we love you, but this is amazing because we don't have to come in as frequently." And guess what? They're more connected with you in some ways, or with the practice, because they have that accessibility. It's not to your phone number. It's through an app, and that kind of gives you that, at least one step of distance, but it's better for them. It's all about the patient. So number one, evaluate, really what the value is to the patient. Number two, a lot of doctors talk to me, they say, "I don't have time for this." And my response to that is, this is exactly what Grin gives you back. It's giving you back time. You're taking a 30-minute appointment down to a 30-second asynchronous appointment. You're creating
Right.
29 minutes per patient per visit that you can go virtual for. Right? We had one doctor that just said, on average over the last year, this added to them 400 hours. And obviously, we're getting data. I will tell you, in my practice, we had 5 clinical chairs running and 1 consultation column. We took the practice down to 3 clinical chairs. We took that 1 consultation column, we added the end chair as a second consultation column. Our revenue is up by 20 something percent. So we're seeing far fewer clinical visits and patients. I now have the ability to bring in more per day consultations. That's where our revenue is going to be generated. And we're finishing every day 15 minutes early plus, right? So
Right.
this is what it does for you. So when evaluating new technology, again, it's all about, in my mind, how is this going to impact my patient? What value does it bring to my patient? Of course, there's also what value it brings to the practice, which is tremendous. And yes, you're right. It's not about, I'm going to put this patient on monitoring and maybe that patient, but not that patient. No. This isn't just about monitoring. This is about the way your practice going forward is now going to communicate, is now going to schedule appointments, is now going to deal with emergencies, is now going to deal with observation appointments and retention appointments. This is a new way of practicing, and it's just going to give you back more time.
Think about it. You were going to be more effective, more efficient, make more money, and get better results. It's a win-win-win for everybody, and technology, you have to adapt it. You have to embrace it. Otherwise, you have no choice. Okay. For any business, if you are not adapting to technology, embracing technology, going with the flow, somebody else will. And obviously, when we were talking before with direct to consumers, you have more competition than ever before. So you have no choice, guys, but really think about how can you stand out from the crowd. So I'm sure if you look around, you see people you never heard of before who are now competing in your backyard from you. So by having technologies and being able to position the practice that way, it's a game changer. And it's something that you need every competitive advantage possible. And Grin can certainly do that. Because it makes you more efficient, more effective, and gets you results, and it gives patients the ability to get the smile they want on their time, and that's the most important. And again, that is so important. Think about it. It's not your time; it's their time. And
It's
that's
so funny
really,
because
really important.
we just recently ran that ad. So you talk about differentiation, right? So this has become a big local differentiator where moms are now talking about it. And we're having new patients come in and saying, we're here because Susie told us about that thing you have with the phone and we don't have to come in as often, right? So we
Right.
ran a local ad recently and it was something about, the smile you always dreamed of on your time. And
Right.
we talked about that very concept.
Yeah, and as you know, as a marketing company, that's pretty much what we do is try to have competitive advantages. When by having a technology like this, will give you the advantage over your competitions, no doubt about it, and make you stand out. And you need everything. You can't compete with guys that are coming in at half the price. You don't want to. So by now giving people better service, better results on their time, it's a no-brainer. Plain and simple. So we got 2 more quick questions for you, Adam. So what advice would you give practice owners out there that are kind of straddling the line and, because they see more competition and they realize that they have to do something, but they don't know what, so there's a lot of different components when it comes to technology, but you got the patient journey from the consultation to the ongoing monitoring to post and keep it going there. So, if somebody had to say, what do I do? What's the first step I should do? What advice would you give somebody as just the first entree to make a change?
So what I'm going to say is think about your customer, think about the patient, think about the consumer. So when you're making these changes, make sure that it's a change that's going to be most impactful to them, because that's what's going to drive all of these things that we're talking about, the differentiation, the buzz that consumers are going to have around your area about what you do that's different, right? And then the other piece to it is don't be afraid. As long as you've evaluated that this is something that makes a difference to my consumer, can be relatively easily implemented, even if it's a little bit of a change of mindset versus traditionally what we've done, That's what we need to do these days. There's no such a thing as traditional anymore. COVID
Right.
came and shook up the entire world. Consumers are literally looking for things that are different. I mean, you see that in every single vertical, right? And healthcare and oral care, especially, is very, very quickly catching up. The reason we've been losing patients to, unfortunately, the DTCs and the others out there is because consumers are looking for something a little bit different. What we need to do is we need to take back that narrative and really tell the market, get that new narrative out there that traditional orthodontics is not traditional anymore. This is what your orthodontist can do for you. You don't have to run to some, half-baked, no doctor involved, direct to consumer solution to get the conveniences that you're looking for. We can do that. Let's match you with your local orthodontist who can now give you everything that you're looking for.
Great. All right. So we have two quick last ones there. I'm giving you the ability tomorrow to put up a billboard in Times Square. What does it say?
Ooh, a billboard in Times Square.
Doesn't have to be anything about, if you want to be Grin related or whatever. This is just Adam talking to 5 million people tomorrow. What are you saying?
So I don't know that I can give you the exact. I would have to wrap my mind around it. But really, it would be about the specialty. It would be about your local orthodontist, and it would be about the narrative that, unfortunately, the narrative that the others are putting out there about orthodontics is not true, and that you should see your local orthodontist. Your smile is something that people in your life that's the first thing they notice. When we start talking about confidence and all of those other pieces to it, everybody wants a great smile, right? And doing it with your local orthodontist is going to give you that most beautiful smile for the rest of your life. And it can be done the way that you're looking for. It doesn't have to be 2 years, metal braces, inconvenient, but we can give you the convenience, the smile you're looking for at a very, very fair price. I mean, something that I think that needed to be done a long time ago, but it's all about changing the narrative to who and what orthodontists really are.
Great. All right. So now we put the billboard up in Times Square, and I'm thinking you're going out for lunch, and you're bringing 2 people with you. Okay. These are 2 people, dead or alive, real or fake. Okay. Who are you bringing to lunch to hang out with?
Oh, that eternal question. So, everybody always likes to try to pull, okay, I'm going to bring in Napoleon because I want to ask him this, or Elon Musk. Honestly, to me, this comes back down to, I would love to have that lunch with my grandparents because unfortunately they are no longer with us. It's been a good couple of years. They were Holocaust survivors. They, came to this country with not a lot. And for me to understand how they would view what myself, my brothers, my siblings, my parents, and what we've all accomplished at this point in time, that would be pretty freaking awesome.
Oh, that's great.
They were amazing people. Also, I think that some of us that lose grandparents when we're younger don't get to really experience who they are, the essence, because we're still children. We're not, the grown adults to really see this person as an adult and to hear truly all of their experiences. That would be pretty phenomenal for me.
Awesome. So now if somebody wants to get more information, they want to get, find out about pricing or bring it into their practice, what's the best way for somebody to reach out to Grin and to learn more about it?
So our website is www.get-grin.com. There's a providers link. Click on the providers. You can look through remote monitoring. We've got videos up there. And then there's always a contact us right there. And we will get back to you ASAP because, love introducing this to practices. Some of the coolest conversations I've had recently have been actually with team members in practices who sometimes get this before the doctors do because they're like, oh my God, this is going to do that for our patients and for us, so get your team members involved in this. I think this is something that can very easily be driven by the team members because they're all going to see the benefit as well as the patients as well.
Great job. This was super informative, very educational, had some great laughs. So thanks, Adam. Really appreciate it. Guys,
thank you.
You really have to start looking at this. If you are not offering any type of virtual follow-ups, virtual monitoring, you're losing out. You really have to jump on the technology bandwagon. It's a game changer. It will make a difference for your patients, make a difference for you, and everybody's going to be happy. So, Adam, thanks so much for joining us. Everybody in podcast land, thanks so much for listening. Everybody be safe. Have a very happy holidays, And we look forward to coming back again in 2022 to make you smile some more. Thanks, everybody.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Thanks, Adam.
orthomarketing.com. 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.